An easy way to get the audience engaged early on is to ask for them to shout out. And if you agree, say, oh yeah. If you disagree, say, ooh, boo. These are called shout outs. An extended number of shout outs become an autoresponder. My name is Kristin Arnold, and I am a master facilitator and a leading expert in moderating panel discussions. And there is a craft to using a shout out or an autoresponder in a panel discussion. Let's find out more. It's awesome to get the audience involved early on in the panel discussion. And one of the easiest ways is to just ask the audience to shout out an answer, whether it's agree, disagree, at the same time. Do you agree, disagree? Just shout out. Or you're going to have a certain mantra that you want the audience to remember. So you actually ask them to shout it out multiple times so that it becomes a touchstone in your panel discussion. In this video, I'm going to share many, many different ways that you can use shout outs or autoresponders in your panel discussion, as well as some examples and a process to use. So we've got a lot going on in this video today, so let's just dive right in. Quite simply, a shout out is a request. It is a request of the audience to play along with you. So as you're requesting the audience to shout out the first time, smile, look at the audience and ask them, invite them to shout out, whether it's, oh, yay, or boo-hoo, or agree, disagree, or many, many different ways that you can have them shout out. It's a simplified version of polling where you've got one or two things that they can do. So I'm going to go through a list of different ways that you can have people shout out or do an autoresponder, which might be a shout out, it could be a movement, could be multiple things. So let's go through that list. So here are some examples of shout outs or autoresponders that you can do. The first one is a simple one word that you want people to shout out. So if you could shout out, so you could do this, you could shout out, do some kind of mechanical version to say, I want you to do this, because the next time you do this or this, they'll start getting the idea that you want them to use that repeatedly. Okay, so that would be a simple, just a one-word statement. You could use something that would be like a fill in the blank, something that they are comfortable with. For example, when I'm having a panel discussion, one of the mantras that I wanted to reinforce was, whatever we're talking about here, you want to adapt it, not adopt it. Because each panelist comes to the world a little differently. And what you want to do is adapt their best practices to your specific situation. So the first time I'll say it is, it's adapt, not adopt. You got it? It's adapt, not adopt. And once you've said this, you kind of have this way that you do it, people will understand when you go adapt, they'll start singing it, adapt, not adopt. That's what you want. That's kind of a fill in the blank. You're starting to say something and then they know how to fill it in. Another example of filling in the blank is using a sentence that everybody would understand. So for example, I was moderating a panel on customer service and somebody was telling a story about approaching a customer and they said, may I help you, please? So like everybody kind of knew that that's what, so it's like, I can help you, please. That was what she wanted to say, is we needed to have a little bit more thank you and appreciation for our customers. That was her point that she was trying to make. So that's how she punctuated it. You might also think about a specific expression. So for example, Tim Gard, who is a professional speaker, friend, colleague, he has a great way of saying things that, woo-hoo, when good things happen to you, and bummer when bad things happen to you. And so throughout the panel, he'd go, woo-hoo, and when bad things, bummer. By the end of the panel, everybody was like going, woo, bummer. Simply because he was doing this simple autoresponder, a shout out, a movement. Woo, boomer. I still remember that. That was a great panel. Thanks, Dan. Another opportunity for a shout out or an autoresponder is taking one of your key phrases and making it so memorable because you use it often and people start filling it in for you. So, for example, a colleague of mine, Shep Hyken, he talks about moments of magic and moments of misery. So he'll talk about moments of magic, moments of misery. And so he'll ask the audience during a panel discussion, is that a moment of magic or is that a moment of misery? Which would you prefer? Magic? Misery? You get the idea? You are now having the audience play along with you. So you do it once, it's a shout out. You start training the audience, it becomes an autoresponder. So I'm just curious, how many of you have seen this technique in a panel? And what was the shout out? What was the autoresponder? I'm just really curious. If you could write it in the notes below. And while you're there, if you could like this video and subscribe to this channel, that would be awesome. Thanks. Okay, so here's the process to use an autoresponder. You may or may not need this first step, but my colleague, Jeff Tobe, he uses this all the time, is he asks permission to the audience. When the audience is in agreement with something that he's saying, and he looks to the audience, he requests for them to say absolutely. So he might say something and then he'll turn to the audience, and if the audience agrees, they'll go, absolutely. He goes, do you agree? Absolutely. So he's training the audience. So he's asking permission of the audience. That's step one. Step two is you have to model the behavior. So, for example, Jeff, he talks about, when I say, do you agree? The answer should be absolutely. So he goes, okay, let's try this. Absolutely. Well, if it's just like absolutely, he's like, no. We need more energy. We need everybody involved. So he'll actually practice it a couple of times. So you decide if you want to practice your autoresponder or you want to make it more organic. Like Tim Gard, he just makes it organic. It's part of his MO. And so people start picking up on it. It's your decision whether you want to do step one, step two. Like modeling, doing some kind of model about the ask, that this is the time that they need to shout out, is awesome. Step three is some kind of affirmation. Like if they do shout out, you go, awesome, you guys are killing it, you're crushing it. Or you can say, ask permission and say, can you do that? Some kind of affirmation that this is okay for them to do. In some respects, I also give people permission not to do it. Like if you don't want to, do that, if you don't want to say absolutely, it's absolutely fine with me. Right? So sometimes it's about giving people permission. And I call that deflecting kind of the antagonism that might show up in a room about people who go, oh, I don't do shout outs. I don't like that. Well, just deflect that by saying, you know what? If you don't want to do it, it's okay. But you praise and affirm the people who are doing it. Step 4 is to reinforce it. When somebody is saying absolutely, and they're doing it with vim and vigor, the audience, you go, oh, that is awesome. So there is some reinforcement about how they're responding to your shout out or your autoresponder. So that's the 4 steps. Pretty simple. You can either make it go organically or you can consciously think through those steps. I hope you got some good ideas about how to do a shout out and an autoresponder. If you're looking for more ideas about how to moderate a panel discussion, I invite you to check out our free 7-part video series that you can access at www.howtomoderateapanel.com. Thanks for watching.